And I hear by the bong, bong, bong outside on the clock in the living room that we're just about at the top of the hour. And as usual, once the bong, bong, bong stops, we'll go ahead and pull down the startup screen and we'll get going. And this is basically just to let the notifications go out that I am live and let everybody get settled in. And we will get going. Let's say we go ahead and do that now. Hey, good morning, y'all. Or good afternoon now. Officially, it's 12 o'clock here on the West Coast. And, that's just the way the time zones run. A day late and a dollar short once again. So, before we get going this morning, I want to say thank you, everybody. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with me. And go down the list here, do a little bit of a roll call. We got Stephen Main from Australia. It's almost 5 a.m. Monday there. I'm taking it is 5 a.m. Monday there now, since it's noon here. So let's see. You got to start working 2 hours. I feel for you, my friend. There's Steve Nealon from Harneal Media. How you doing this morning, Steve? Webmaster to the stars. Check him out at harnealmedia.com for all your website needs. There's a link down in the description. He's my man. He sponsors Mark Lindsay CNC.com, which I'm getting ready to update. Honest, I promise. Ayal Peleg's in the house from Israel. Truly an international crowd here. As always, Leo Steger. How you doing today, Leo? Jason Cross. Just discovered you 2 days ago, and I'm glad I have. You may live to regret that decision, Jason. The way you teach is excellent, slow and informative. That's me, slow and informative. Ice Cream 62 from Italy. How are you doing today, my friend? See, Dale Francis checking in from Utah. Dave Krause from Michigan, Troy Pritchard from wherever he's kicking around today, Damian Thompson, how you all doing today? Francisco Paz from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Mr. Dave Gatton from the big screen at Gatton Central in beautiful Georgia. Let's see. Jason Cross from England. Holy cow. Mark John from Washington State, my neighbor to the north. Bob Heltebridle, poster of all things rude, crude, socially unacceptable, and definitely funny. Let's see, Mr. Aaron Hansen, how you doing? There's Grant from Ottawa, who sent me an excellent email a few minutes ago after a YouTube comment this morning. Let's see, Dave Reichert. Dave Matthews, the over 60 crafter in that paradise known as Trinidad and Tobago. I am so jealous. Let's see, Don Sigurdsson from Victoria, also up to the north of me. I take it you mean BC, correct? I may be wrong. Albert Drew is in the house. Peter Knight in from Vermont. Oh man, it's still cold in winter up there from everything that I've seen on the weather. So, and yes, Ice Cream 62, we are doing just fine here. We are both retired, which means we don't really go very many places or do many things anyway. And the only sacrifices we've had to make through all of this have been of convenience. We'd like to go to a restaurant and sit down and have a meal every once in a while, but we don't get to do that, but that's okay. We just order and pick up curbside. Other than that, it's just basically appointments here and there, and whether it be for doctors or something else, and go to the grocery store when we need to. Just about everywhere we need to go is still open. We haven't really been inconvenienced much at all. But then again, we don't have a life. So, we are each other's life. That and all the yard work out here. So, Let's see. We've had a few more people join in. Dennis Rodriguez from Hollywood, Florida. And let's see. Bernie Galinsky, Atest Rafala. Before we get into questions, let me just start with talking about the video that I put out this morning. And that was on my recovery from a power failure when I was running a project. I've got a couple of project videos that are going to be coming out a little bit later on when I get them finished. And right now I'm currently waiting on paint to dry so I can shoot the other side and then get everything assembled and hung, and then I'll start putting out the videos. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't like to post project videos until the videos are just about done. Well, it's a double-sided project, and while drilling the holes into my spoil board for the into my spoil board for the locating dowels, I blew a breaker. This was back in late November, early December. So I figured, what the heck, let's go ahead and shoot some video of how I recover from that. Well, this also taught me a lesson in why I don't do Mach 3 videos, because I immediately had questions, and I knew I would. And let me just start by saying there are hundreds of ways of doing this kind of thing. Folks who have larger machines and are a lot more technical into Mach 3 or use a lot of fixtures can set up Mach 3 to remember that kind of thing. You will have to rehome the machine, and you'll have to bring it back to your work offset 0. I, on the other hand, don't use fixtures very often. Just about everything I make is a one-off. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to set up a separate G54 or G56 or something like that in Mach 3 to set up a fixture for something I'm only going to run once and then never use again. So that's why I didn't go that in depth into that. This was just an opportunistic video. The power went out. I thought, well, let me show people how I use the triple edge finder to recover from that. Sure, there are other ways of doing it. And I linked, as a matter of fact, Dave Gatton's video on how to set up before you even start cutting so that you can recover. So, and then Peter Pasqualo also did a video on it. He uses a slightly different system, but I believe Peter's used Mach 3. It might have used CNC. I know Dave's used Mach 3. And I also know that not everybody uses Mach 3. That's what I use, so that's what I know. But the principles are there whether you use Mach 3 or not. Even if you're using another controller software, WinCNC or Carbide Motion or something else, if you have a known location on your spoil board or on your piece of material that you can reference off of when you get power back, then you can generally set your X and Y 0 from there. Your Z 0 is going to be set no matter what you do. So the principles are there, and they're basically the same. You should be able to recover from that. I just use the triple edge finder because, as I said, it's quick, it's fast. The video, I think, was like 14 minutes long. If I didn't have to stop and set up cameras and then explain everything as I'm going along, it would take me roughly a minute to go ahead and throw it up there and do boom, 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 reset X and Y 0 and then get going again. So again, that was mainly my reason, is because it just happened. Now, I see here Bob Heltebridal says that had to be staged. There were no expletives. I'm not that guy. Not anymore. I used to be. But I just discovered that a long time ago that I'm a happier person if I don't throw stuff. And I have to buy fewer things or replace them. So Yeah, it was just, and it was my own fault. Like I said, it was the dead of winter. I had my heater running. I'm on a single 15 amp circuit. And the minute that router plunged into the material, that was just enough of a load to where it popped that breaker. And I was like, son of a, yeah, I thought it. I didn't say it, but what can you say? So there are several methods of recovery from something like that. That's the one I used when it happened. I posted a short clip on Facebook and asked if anybody would be interested in how I recover from that. Enough people said yes. I figured I'd throw that video out there. Also, I'll apologize now for the sound quality. It was really rough, really ragged. Turns out I didn't have my digital recorder running, so it didn't work. So I was using the audio off of the camera, and that was sketchy at best. So, hey, what can I say? All right, let me see here. Aaron Hansen says the triple edge finder, the 000 block, only works with Mach 3 and 4 machines. I could not find anything different. Aaron, I would recommend you shoot an email to Bill through the Maker's Guide website and ask him. I know that UCCNC can use some of the functions of it, but I'm not sure about all of them. Bill is like me. He uses Mach 3, and the Mach 4, I believe, comes stock from Artsoft with all the screens and everything necessary to run a three-way touch plate. I don't know that for certain, but I believe it does. I use Mach 3 because that's what I was introduced to. It works. I have the license. I don't have a need to upgrade. Now, having said that, if I were just getting started and I didn't have anything yet, and I were going to go with Mach 3 or Mach 4, I would go with Mach 4. Simply because it's the newest, it's the latest, it's the greatest. And it is being constantly updated. So, but having Mach 3 running on an old Windows XP machine out there that's dedicated to nothing but Mach 3, I'm going to stick with that. So, let's see. Atesta Rafala asked, any feeds and speeds charts for a few types of wood that are good starters to calibrate more for them? From them, excuse me. I have like no clue what good numbers to start. I hesitate to talk about feeds and speeds for several reasons. The number one reason is because every machine is different and every machine has so many different variables. It's not even ridiculous. My best advice, let's see, I don't know if you're running imperial or metric. You can use Google to convert in metric, in imperial for just about every wood. I started about 60 inches per minute, and you can convert 60 inches per minute to metric if you prefer. And then I dial in from there. Again, using Mach 3, I can speed up or slow down the feed rate as it's cutting. But I find that starting at about 60 inches per minute, I can dial it in from there once I see how it's cutting. And because every piece of material is different. But I find that 60 is a good starting point, and I'll, go from there. Some bits just don't want to cut at 60 inches per minute. Like I have some smaller bits. Let's see, I have a 3/64 ball nose that I would not cut at 60 inches per minute because you break a lot of bits that way. But I, generally speaking, start right about 60, and then I see how it goes. And every machine's different. Your machine may be capable of cutting through 3/4 inch plywood in one pass at 200 inches per minute. Mine isn't. But I'm a home hobbyist. I'm not out to cut out 1,000 parts today. I'm going to do one project today. And if I don't get it done today, I have no problem coming back and finishing it tomorrow. So, it just depends on the machine. It depends on the router slash spindle. It depends on the bit. It depends on the material. You are not going to cut metal at 60 inches per minute. And if you're cutting something like that, you need to be looking into a CNC mill and not a CNC router. But you probably know that. So, let's see. Let me cruise back up here. I know I had passed a couple of different, different questions up here. I will get back to Grant's email because that is some good info. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm kind of. Joni Jensen wants to know, do you actually drill holes in your spoil board? Wouldn't you have to replace your spoil board a lot? No. For double-sided projects, and I've showed in a couple of two-sided projects I've done. One was the jar lids. And I put a scrap piece of plywood up on my spoil board, screw it down, and then I drill holes in that. That way I'm not drilling out my entire spoil board. Now, having said that, I don't baby my spoil board. It's all cut up and ground up and everything else. It's about time to resurface it. And I don't replace it. It's when I get it machined down to where it's almost level with my T-track, I'll glue some more 1/4-inch MDF on top of that, surface it, flat, and drive on. I don't see a need to take it off and replace it. I mean, I may change my mind. There may come a day when I have to. But, Joni, if you watch the mason jar lids, you'll know what I mean about drilling into a scrap piece of plywood rather than trying to drill holes into my spoil board. Because you never know. One of those holes may end up being right in the middle of a piece of T-track and there's nothing there to index off of. So I figured just having a nice flat smooth surface like a scrap piece of plywood and using that as an auxiliary spoil board. I do the same thing if I'm surfacing a slab. I will set down a piece of plywood and kind of level out the slab using shims. That way, screw the piece through the shims, screw the plywood to the slab through the shims, and then screw that down and surface it that way. So, and I may be surfacing a slab later this summer. It's not ready yet. And I will be doing a video on that. So, let's see. Leo Steger confirms, yes, Mach 4 does come with the screens to use the triple edge finder. Okay, great. And Grant says, UGS, I'm assuming that's Universal G-Code Sender, has a probe module. It can use all 3 edges to find XYZ0. Perfect. See, I did not know that. It's great. I've never used Universal G-Code Sender. Let's see. Jason Cross. I'll get to you in just a second. Over 60 Crafter. Now that I've started on Jason Cross. I get my first CNC in September. What would you recommend I do before it arrives? Make room. Figure out the footprint of the CNC and double that number at a minimum, because you're going to need to get around it, all 4 sides. There are exceptions to the rule. Some people like the little benchtop models that they can shove into a corner or something. Great. I find that if I put something in a corner, I'm going to need to get into that corner probably 3 times a day. So I don't put anything in corners unless it's on wheels. Second, figure out which CAD CAM software you're going to use. Get into the tutorials and learn it. For me anyway, the single hardest part of this entire process is getting the idea out of my mind and into the computer. And you just simply cannot start learning the CAD CAM software too soon. So by all means, I mean, there are several options out there. I'm partial to the Vectric software. I know not everybody is, and I know that it's pricey. It will more than pay for itself quickly, but I know that's a large chunk of money to be investing. But no matter which software you decide you're going to go with, and download a bunch of free trials and start learning, and you'll quickly discover which one you like best, and then focus on that one. But you can't start too soon. Let's see now. Over 60 Crafter had a question for me. I got to go back up to it. Hey, Mark, any recommendation for a bit to carve text about 1/4 inch in height on MDF? If you mean V-carving it, it just depends on the depth you want to carve it to. My go-to bit has forever been a 90-degree V-bit. I get real good results with that. But for text that tall, you might want to look into a 30-degree or a 45-degree V-bit. 60 might do it. It just depends on how deep you want to carve. Remember, in V-carving, it's the width between the vectors that you're carving away that's going to decide how deep that bit carves. Unless you're carving to a flat depth, then in which case it doesn't matter. But you might want to look into 30-degree and 45-degree bits. Beyond that, maybe a 15-degree is something that you might want to look into. It just depends on the depth you want to use. So let me go back up here a little bit more. Aaron Hansen says, nice shirt in the first part of the video. I'll have to go back and look and see which one that... Oh, that one. Yeah, that's my old Ready sweatshirt. I was... I was half raised by a grandmother who lived through the Depression. And her attitude was, now we say reduce, reuse, recycle. Back then they said use it till it's used up. And that sweatshirt is evidence that I took those lessons to heart, because that sucker has been through 15 different kinds of heck with me, and I still wear it when it's cold outside. So, let's see. Dave Reichert wants to know, do you have any plans to do dovetails and our box joint? My Dave is cut out like yours to accommodate vertical stock. Right at the moment, no, Dave. But when I get the new shop up and running, I do have plans on taking that rotary access mount off of the front of the machine and using that for clamping up for dovetails and box joints. But right now, I just haven't had the need to do that just yet. So, to be honest, I do box joints on my table saw. It's still faster for me anyway. But I know there's some interest in that. So right now, no, but I will be down the road. So let's see. Let me go further down here. Jim Johnson says he uses the triple edge finder with UC-CNC, no problem. Thank you for confirming that. I really do appreciate that. Let's see. Ice Cream 62 says should be possible to use a coordinate system to reposition the tool after a power shutdown. I think Mach 3-4 have this possibility. It does. And in fact, let me go ahead and bring up Mach 3 and we will get into something here. I've got Mach 3 set up, kind of using Aspire as a background. And this is the standard screen set. This is not the screen set I use. So if I make a few mistakes, it's because I'm not used to this screen. I have a piece of G-code loaded in. It's a clearance toolpath for a sign that I made for my niece and nephew. And I have all my X, Y, and Z zeros already set, and everything's ready and raring to go. And I'll go ahead and hit cycle start and let it start. Do the tool change. Go ahead. Come on. You ready to go now? All right. So it's picking up and it's moving. Now, if we look over here at this little display, we can see All of the red lines are rapid moves. All of the blue areas are areas where it's going to be carving. Now, if I hit stop just to simulate a power shutdown, for example, and I have to shut everything, everything shuts off. Let me close that file. There, the G-code's gone. Now I want to pick up where I left off. I don't know what line number I was on. I don't know anything. I've got my machine rehomed. I've got my X and Y 0 set and ready to go, either using Dave Gatton's method or using a 3-way touch plate or whatever. I've got my X and Y 0 all ready to go. There is a way to go ahead and try to get at least as close to where you left off as you can without having to start the whole thing all over again. So I'll go ahead and I'll load the G-code file. And that was this one here. And I don't even remember where it was cutting. I know it was somewhere down in here. But looking down at the material, I know that it was somewhere in this area here. So all I'm going to do is click on my display screen over here and watch as I start scrolling through this display. Watch over in this area here, and you'll see a white kind of a dot start to flash in this area. So I'll start scrolling down. I'll start scrolling down, and you see that little flash right there. That's where the tool is going to. And we see how it's carving right here. And when I get to a certain point, and I know it was carving right in this area right here, I'm going to look at this G-code and find a Z move. I don't want to go beyond, because I don't want it to just suddenly move or plunge into an area that it hasn't cut yet. So I'm going to back up a little bit and find my last Z move up here. And here it is on line 41. There's the Z move right there. So I want to scroll down to that number with the Z move and come down here and go run from here. You will see I have line 41 right there. Line 41 up here is selected. And I want to click run from here. The G-code advances. Then I can hit cycle start, and it's going to bring up this screen right here. This is the preparation for positioning. What this is telling me is it's going to move from my 0 point over to this XY coordinate, which is this one right up in here, the last XY coordinate where the machine was running. And the reason I want to get that Z move is because I want to make sure this is a positive number, so that Z isn't going to drag its way across the material at -1 or something. Once I know that this is safe and I can move, my Z is up out of the material and I can move over to this position, I'll click OK. And if you watch, my crosshairs move and it goes over to that spot. And my bit is up out of the material. Now I can hit cycle start again, and it picks up right where it left off. So that was to kind of take off on where I left off on this video and getting into trying to start where you were. Now, it's not always that simple. This is a fairly simple tool path. And if you haven't been cutting long, if it's only been a minute or two, I find, what the heck, I just go ahead and start it over from the very beginning. But if that gives you any kind of an indication as to how you can just go through here and manually position your router to, or your tool path rather, to about where it was, Look for a Z move, as I said. Make sure that Z is up out of the material in a positive position before you get it going. Let's see. Nope, that's not a Z move there either. So, I hope that helps a little bit. Now let's come back over here and, oops, there we go. All right. Now let me come back over and find you guys and to see what you're commenting on. I hope that was a little bit of an insight as to what's going on there. And using the coordinate system to reposition the tool. So let's see. Stephen Main says Planet CNC TNG version 2 has all edge finding built in also. Excellent. Excellent. Atest Rafala says, have you tried Fusion 360 and compared it to Vectric? I'm pretty fluent in Fusion. I just wonder, do I have to learn something new to make nice curves? It's not so much learning new as it is where the controls are. Fusion 360 and Vectric software, be it VCarve or Aspire, are two different animals. Fusion 360 is an excellent program. If you are carving out parts for assemblies, doing a lot of profile cuts, machining gears, things like that, it's an excellent program. It's a huge hammer, though, and it's a lot more than I need. So to be honest with you, I don't even... I started getting into it, then discovered it wasn't the program I wanted to use. I went with VCarve Pro. I also took a couple classes on learning SolidWorks, decided it was not the type of 3D program I wanted to use. So I didn't go any further with SolidWorks either. I've not done a heads-up comparison to VCarve or Aspire and Fusion 360. For what I do, VCarve and Aspire is the type of software that I want to work with. It's so easy to learn. It's not even funny. I mean, I'm proof of that. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not an expert with any software. I'm an expert at trying to learn how to use software, but I'm not an expert with any software. And VCarve and Aspire have probably the gentlest learning curve of any software I've ever tried to learn to use. So, let's see. Troy Pritchard says Laney from Spindle TV just did a show on V-Bits and how they vary. He did. It is an excellent episode as well. I highly recommend it. I'll go find it and put a link in the description of this video. Let's see. Writing it down so I don't forget it. I'll put a description in down below as soon as this becomes a regular video. Give me about 10 minutes after we go off the air here. Let's see. Rob Schuster. Hey, Mark, I have an off-topic question. Long question, more than one post, okay. In VCarve, when I node edit, some curve nodes are blue, so when I change one side of the curve, the other side goes with it. Okay. Sometimes the nodes are black, and I can change one side curve without changing the curve on the other side of the node. Sometimes there I can only edit one side of the curve, then the other side is a straight line. How can I edit nodes to go between these options? That's a lot to process, Rob. If you could send me a screenshot of what you're looking at. The blue nodes are the ones that are kind of giving me pause. The red nodes just simply mean they're active. The black nodes are inactive. They're just nodes. Green is a start point. In blue, I'm going to have to get back into that. Do me a favor and send me a couple of screenshots of that. That'll give me a little bit better idea as to what's going on. So, let's see. Troy Pritchard, if the power was to go out in the middle of the project, is there a way to tell which line was the last line processed in Mach 3? Other than what I just showed a couple of seconds ago, Troy, That's about it. I mean, you can get close to where you left off. And but as far as finding out the exact line you were on, no. It does not save anything unless you save it, you know. Let's see now. Dylan's Woodwork's in the house. How you doing? Good to see you too. Let's see. Jason Cross. Sorry, what is Mach 3/4? Okay. The CNC process. I know you're brand new and haven't got your machine yet. The CNC process has several steps, and you have the design phase. Then you have CAD, which is the drawing or importing of the design. Then you have CAM, which is literally assigning tools to follow the path to cut the design. Then you have machining. The Mach 3/Mach 4 is the machining program. When you've got the design done in VCarve, Aspire, whatever you use, and you calculate the tool paths, you will save G-code. That's the code that actually tells the CNC where to go. And that's what I was showing in Mach 3 just a minute ago, where I took that code that was generated in that case, I think it was VCarve, and put it through the controller software that actually sends the impulses out to the controllers, which tell the motors which way to turn, how far, and which direction. So it's that code that actually tells the CNC where to send that bit. I wrote an article about 2 years ago, put it up on my website, that goes a little bit further into that and explains it a lot better than I just did. I'll put a link to that down in the description of this video. It's called The CNC Process for the Absolute Beginner. And it goes through the various phases of the entire process, which, believe it or not, probably only about a third of it actually takes place with the machine. The rest of it is either preparation for the machine or finishing after the machine. But that is the controller software. There is Mach 3, then the newest version is Mach 4. I still use Mach 3. If I were just starting out again, like I said, I would go with Mach 4. But there are other options out there. UC-CNC is an excellent option if you're using a UC100 motion controller or UC400 or something like that. Tip to the wise, do not get a cheap $50 UC100 motion controller off of eBay, Craigslist, or whatever. It will not work. That is a USB to parallel adapter that somebody stuck a label on, and you'll be out your $50. A UC100 runs about $100, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, and they are verified sellers. You won't find them on eBay. You may or may not find them on Amazon. I'll try to find a link to them. I believe the website is CNC for PC. I may be wrong there. I will try to find a link and put it in the description of this video. Let's see, UC100. But the only reason I bring that up is because if you want to use UC-CNC software, you have to be either using a UC100 motion controller or use a UC400 control board in there. So let's see. Just found my problem. Read instructions. Yeah, that helps me with a lot of my problems too. Javi in the house. Check out him at javi.com. Check out Javi Box, all-in-one plug-and-play motion controller. Link in the description. If not, it'll be there soon. Let's see. Jeff at Resorter66. Can a remote controller be added to jog your machine around? There are probably about 5,200 Well, let me go further than that. Just almost, but not quite a bazillion different controllers out there that can be used. You can use it depends on your control software, and that's what you have to make sure about first. If you're using Mach 3, there are a ton of controllers out there. Everything from real fancy pendants down to using. I use an Xbox 360 controller. Some people use PlayStation controllers. There are bunches of options. Just look for a pendant or remote controller that will work with your control software. Mach 3 is so common that just about, well, I won't say all of them, the overwhelming majority of remote controllers are made to work with Mach 3. So, Dave Gatton's throwing in some good information. CNC Drive sells them too, and they sell on Amazon. Just make sure that it's a legit seller. If it's Ernie and Frank over in West Dump Truck, you don't want to do that. So, how do they hook up? It depends on the controller, Jeff. I will. Okay, I'm gonna have to get that one too. I've linked it in the past, but I'll do it again. Let's see. I will link a video that I used to set up my Xbox 360 controller by Steve over at the Guru Brew. And it basically plugs into the computer. You download a plug-in for Mach 3, and you run it that way. You have a Shapeoko. If you're not running Mach 3, Jeff, head over to the Shapeoko support forum and talk to those folks over there. You have a great resource over there with the Shapeoko forums, because these are the people that own your machines, and they run them constantly, and they talk with one another. It's not employees of the company mainly. It's predominantly people who own a Shapeoko and want to do the kind of stuff that you're doing. So they have been there, done that. They've got the T-shirts. Some of them have burned those T-shirts, but regardless, they're the people that know your machine best. And if you want to use some form of a wireless or wired controller to jog your machine around or run your software from, they're the people to talk to. Just go on to Google and look for Shapeoko support forum, and you'll find it. Register, join, peruse the forum, and you will find all kinds of neat little tips, tricks, and how-tos that you didn't even know existed for your machine. So I can't recommend them enough. Jonathan W. just stopped in to say, hey, shouldn't you be working on a Roadster pickup? Or are you taking lunch break or editing a video? I've been following that. This man, I talk about Jonathan whenever I see him pop in. He scored a set of doors from I want to say Model A Ford, and a cowl that he had in some of his junk. And he has set about making a Roadster pickup based on those two doors. So we're talking about he had two car doors, and he's in the process of building a Roadster pickup around it. This is what I mean when I say that this guy, if he can't fix it, it ain't broke. And he can make a whole lot out of nothing. Get over and check out his channel. I'll link him in the description. He's a lot of fun. And just killer stuff he works on. I live vicariously through him. Okay, we've been on here for almost 45 minutes. Holy cow. Over 60 Crafter says she got a mini wireless to work on carbide motion. Excellent. Would you recommend some of the support forums over there for how to learn that? Seems like a good alternative for me. Okay, not seeing any more questions. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and close this out. Aaron Hansen wants to know, does anyone know a good source of G-code for post-processor files? Are you trying to modify a post-processor or edit a post-processor? What I would do, I don't know which control software you use or which CNC you use, but I would go to the support forum and for that machine and that control software and talk to them about post processors there. If you're just looking for G code to run projects, I don't run other people's G code. I just don't. So, alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and close this out and say thank you very much for spending part of your Sunday with me. I really appreciate it. Let's hang in there, folks. We're all in this together. And at the end of the day, we're all one another's got. Do the right thing. You know what that is. Be good. If you can't be good, be careful. If you can't be careful, don't name it after me. And remember, wash your hands. Thank you very much to everybody. Y'all have a good day. Now get out and go do something cool. Have a good one.